Hello.
How's it going? So we're going to talk about some of our lessons that I've been doing Christmas lights since I think 2012, 2000. I think so.
No, we've been doing it since 2011.
Since 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
So we've had some ups and downs along the way, and tons of people have listened to us or listened to me and my big fails. So that way they are rocketing and their businesses are doing very well. So, but we've definitely learned some stuff along the ways. Um, so I think we're getting
Just a reminder that we're going live.
okay. So uh, let's see here. What's the title to this?
It's what not to do
What not to do
with your Christmas light business.
with your Christmas light
We've
business.
had lots of experience of what not to do.
Right. So we have definitely the part of the issue was we never knew that Christmas lights was really a legitimate business that you can do for like where it could become what you do year round. We never treated it that way. It was just I used to be a handyman. I used to do well. I started off as in roofing sales. I used to go door to door, knock doors, and then I would have people whatever. I was just trying to get on their roof to get a roof inspection, see if they had hail damage. So Christmas lights was a great way. We could hang lights, and then I'd be up there and say, "Oh wait, you got hail damage," and I got quite a few Christmas light jobs, or my customers end up turning into a whole roof replacement. So that was pretty awesome. Now, not because we caused the damage, but I already knew there was hail in that neighborhood. And in fact, the guy that taught me how to install Christmas lights, his only motive for Christmas lights was to get on people's roofs and to find hail damage, uh, so that he could make a fortune on selling the roof. Um, and there's still roofing companies that do the same thing, but well, as I got further into Christmas lights, I started looking online. So this would have been 12 years ago, and there wasn't a lot. But I started to see there's other people that are doing this professionally, other people that are making businesses of it. So I actually started talking to my roofing friend that got me into the Christmas lights. It's like this is what roofers do in the winter to make it extra, to like a good side hustle. It gives you a little Christmas light money. So right away, I started raising my rates. I was Tanner. I was talking to him, and he was like $3 a foot. You got to get $3 a foot. So I started raising my price to $3 a foot. And right away, I started getting a lot of pushback from the guy that taught me how to hang lights. He's like, "That's robbery. How could you sleep at night? Like this is Christmas light money. You can't be charging people that." And he had been doing it for 10 years before he taught me how to do it. So, but anyways, that's the big lesson from that is you should go into your Christmas light season planning on making it a legitimate business. That really held me back for years because I never really planned on it being a business.
That's a good tip. So somebody said, let's see. Oh, just gave my first six-figure estimate. That is awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
If you're watching in the private Facebook group, just know your comments like anonymous. So, but six-figure estimate. I don't know if we have ever given a six-figure estimate. Maybe we did an estimate for a casino. We didn't get it.
I mean, we've done so. Like there was a light show in Connecticut. I helped. That was like a couple 100,000, but that was I was just a sales rep for a factory. Yeah. And I did a small part, and then I put him in touch with the factory, which sold him the whole show. So that was like a couple 100,000. I was about almost 200,000 altogether. Donovan's done, I think, a couple $100,000 install or estimates down in North Carolina. So but that's awesome. If you do a six-figure estimate, that's really good.
So at $3 a foot.
And what year are you?
You'd have to.
Yeah, $3 a foot. You'd have to do about 30,000 feet, that's good because that's more than I even do even now. And I've been doing this for I don't think I even installed 30,000 feet.
We started off at like
in a year
$7 or $8 a strand for mini lights.
Yeah, we actually no, we were at like $7, $8 a light strand for mini lights. They were like, well, the next year you don't got to buy the lights; you just rehang them, and you're getting $7, $8 a mini light.
Well, we were also buying them from Target, so. But anyways, let's start talking about the things not to do or for your Christmas light business. And I think my number one thing is to not enter or go through your season without an accountant. Now, it's not very exciting, but we learned pretty quickly our first year um, that an accountant is invaluable. Do you want to talk about what happened to us our very first year?
Okay, yeah, a lot of you guys are going to be in the same boat with you're just starting your businesses and you're doing multiple different ideas to see what gets going. And so like I was a handyman. I did a whole bunch of different services. And Christmas lights, I just was like, okay, so most of my services, if I'm making 30, 40 bucks an hour, I thought that was decent. Well, because I was used to making by the hour, like working, I did Dunkin' Donuts and I did Chinese food delivery. I'd make 20 bucks an hour with tips. So I was like, okay, if I'm making 30, 40, I'm really killing it. So then Christmas lights, I was making sometimes 80, 100 bucks an hour. It's like, how, and everyone, other people are bashing me saying that you're going to go out of business. Like, that's so stupid. And I was like, I'm making really good money. Well, uh, we ended up, I didn't know anything. So, but I was making enough money that I was starting to bring people because I was getting so overwhelmed with work.
Well, our first year, you need to even go back. So our first year, we hired somebody and they insisted that we pay them as a subcontractor. They were also on drugs, so don't take financial advice
From
from
someone on
someone
drugs.
on
So, and
drugs.
they were a very experienced carpenter. They knew way more than me. But they would yell and scream. It's like, I've been a 1099 employee for 20 years and you're going to try to put me on the books. And so I actually made all my employees go on the books except him because he was kind of my crew leader and he refused to go on the books. And so he's like, I've never been on the books. So, but then when we let him go, cause he got, this was like 10 years ago.
Oh, this is another piece of advice. Don't hire somebody on drugs.
Yeah. Well, he ended up turning us into the state for paying him his 1099 when he should have been employee because he wanted unemployment. So he ended up getting his unemployment, and we ended up getting audited by the state, and we had to pay. They audited all our books. So we had just got an accountant. They said, look, you need to get a payroll service. You need to get all these people on the books. This is really illegal what you're doing. So we were getting everyone legal. We were putting everyone on the books, but this one guy absolutely was adamant he would not go on the books. And then he turned us into the state because he wanted unemployment. And so he ended up on unemployment and we got audited. And I think we paid what?
Legally, he qualified as an employee. It was your material he was using. It was your transportation, your tools. Like you paid him hourly, so he was an employee. And so
we had a state auditor. That's what they said. It's like, look, here's a real clue. If they're using your equipment, your vehicles, and then they're an employee. Like if they're taking a time clock, they're your employee. They said the number one clue that they are your employee. Can their business, if you go away, are they going to go out of business? Because if they cannot be sustained without you, then they're an employee.
So basically,
we paid thousands of dollars when we got audited.
Yeah, and this was our very first year in business that this happened. It was like a total nightmare. But I mean, it was like 12 years ago, 11, 12 years ago at this point. But I mean, having an accountant to guide you through some of these things, especially hiring people, is so important because depending on what state you live in, we live in Connecticut, there's lots and lots of red tape. So you just need to make sure that you're doing everything right. And then that was our one accountant thing. And then our other one was having an accountant that's able to give you advice. So like the job that you didn't really understand your overhead.
Yeah, so my accountant, we had a great accountant. We don't use them anymore, but they were
I mean, that's debatable, I guess.
I really liked them. They made us pay way too much to IRS, but I liked them. But it's just if you would like to give away money to the IRS, then get a very conservative accountant, and that's what we had for many years. But they would put me in the office like, you do not understand overhead. I was like, look, I'm making $35 a man hour out there. She's like, those are going out of business numbers. You do not understand overhead. And so my accountant was really trying to drill me and grill me about like overhead. Like you cannot function. You will go out of business. He's like, she said, if you're doing $45 a man hour, those are going out of business numbers. Like you can, and you have to include yourself when you're on a job. If you're there and you got two guys, that's every hour you're there, that's really 3 man hours. I don't care if you're sitting in the truck running estimates, it's still 3 hours that three people there. If you're going out every once in a while directing them, then that's 3 man hours. You need to include yourself in that. But that's part of, you have to figure out all that stuff. But then one of the main things though, your insurance, if you're going to have guys climbing around on the roof, it's one thing to risk your own life, but if you're going to send guys out there running on ladders and all that stuff, that's dangerous stuff. That's why most states require workman's comp. So we got workman's comp, and workman's comp is going to be probably your biggest bill of your business.
But so anyways, you were billing the customer $35 an hour for each man hour, and with workman's comp, insurance, was it like all the different state taxes that you have to pay? It cost you more than $35 an hour. So it was like no matter how hard you were working, the harder you worked, literally the more money you lost, which is just really crazy. Let's see. Somebody said, yes, great advice. Misclassification lawsuits happen all the time. Guys always want to be 1099, then sue for benefits. Yep.
Yeah, and you always think that'll never happen to you until it does. So I would try to get legitimate as fast as possible. It's not really that difficult if you get a bookkeeper, like they'll pay all your taxes.
We use QuickBooks, and I mean, it's definitely not cheap, but they file all of the paperwork for you, and it's really.
And not having an account, like one time we didn't pay our 1099s on time, which they're due. You have to pay our 1099s by the end of January to every subcontract you have. So we paid them like a month late.
Well, no, we give the 1099s to the subcontractors on time, but I don't know. Sometimes I really mess stuff up.
This happened twice.
Didn't get to the
So
IRS.
the first year, it's like a $240 fine for not reporting it in time to the IRS. So we didn't know. We thought we just give the 1099s to our subcontractors. And so we sent them out to them. Well, this happened twice. And so the first one was like almost a $3,000 penalty. And the next year was like a $4,000 penalty because it's $240 or whatever, $260 per 1099. So we had 20 of them. So that was a lot of 1099s. Anyways, these are things I know you guys like, well, who cares about it? Like, well, the guys that get mad at you are the ones that are going to report you and turn you in. So it does happen a lot quicker than you think.
So yeah, that lesson with the 1099s is, yeah, making sure that you get everything filed in a timely manner, because I've literally cost our company, not Christmas light contractors, but our personal company, thousands of dollars because I procrastinate.
Well, so then workman's comp ends up being one of your largest bills. Like materials will probably be more expensive. Payroll will be one of your biggest expenses, but right up there is, well, taxes. Employee taxes are huge. You owe a lot of money to the IRS for each time you have a man working on the job. If whatever you're paying him, a percentage is actually going to the government. You have to have that set aside and quarterly paying for that. And that's QuickBooks, I think, automates this for you. So I'd highly recommend getting QuickBooks. But you need an accountant. Like I'd find a payroll service, someone that's going to guide you through the process. I mean, Kaitlin said that they're expensive, but it's really not. I think you can find them pretty affordable.
What?
A payroll service.
Oh.
If you got like two guys, you're trying to, especially if you're doing Christmas lights and you have a bunch of, like, end up having 4 or 5 guys through the season, you don't want to have to worry about all this stuff. So there's payroll services that will charge you like $100 a week or per person. But it's the one person costs a lot, but any additional person is only a couple bucks extra a week or something.
I mean, the point is that it is an expense that is worth paying to have it done correctly. Like I've paid enough in fees and penalties to know that I don't want to mess it up again. So
yeah, so you learn through pain's a great teacher. So you learn a lot of we've learned through a lot of pain. We're speaking from experience. So I know this may be boring to you guys, don't want to hear it. A lot of people are losing because it has nothing to do with Christmas lights, but this all really affected our Christmas light business. So then we were trying to bring down cost on workman's comp. And so I actually went into my my insurance, the person, they really should be called an insurance sales rep, but they're called your insurance agent. And I asked them, well, my bill so much was for workman's comp was so much next year. How can I bring it down? She's like, we need to start hiring people that got their own workman's comp. So I started only all my 1099s. I started to make sure that I would have their 1099 before they start the job, and that they'd had workman's comp on there. I got all that straightened out. Well, guess what? She counseled me. Some of the guys that were working for me were also doing some side gigs and trying to start their own companies. So they ended up getting their own comp policy. I was like, well, I can't, if you're not going to work by the hour anymore and you want a percentage of the job, okay, that's fine, but I need a copy of your comp. So that way I'm not paying comp on top of you because you don't have comp. So my insurance agent actually got me, one of my main installers got them like a ghost policy, which doesn't cover them. It only covers if they end up having employees. Well, they pretty much work by themselves. So I ended up getting so me and Kaitlin, or Kaitlin and I, we were out doing Christmas lights one year, and we got we just got a letter today. Our audit is due for workman's comp, but we had a workman's comp audit like a month before. We're starting to hang lights, and the auditor was like, "Oh boy, this is not going to look good for you guys." And he's being really nice, but then we were actually getting done installing lights, and we come home and we get the mail, and it's like, "Oh, this is our audit. Let's see." And it said that we owed at that moment, it was $24,000, and we had 30 days to pay. Now, keep in mind, my wife was working for like $14 an hour, I think, at the
As a
time.
substitute teacher
Yeah,
when we weren't doing Christmas
and she's
lights.
like, "Are you serious? Like, this is more than I make in a year. This is more than I make in almost 2 years." She was like, this is ridiculous." And we had 30 days to pay it. And this is like when I was just starting out in Christmas
We were
lights.
very poor.
But my insurance agent that counseled me to get this ghost policy for my employee that was starting his own business actually knew that his policy wasn't going to count when we got audited. And so, I mean, she gets a bigger commission. Like she gets 10% of, or I don't know what it is, but I think it's 10% or 20 or 15% or whatever of your total workman's comp that you pay for the year. That's how the agent gets paid. So like the higher my audit is, the more money she was going to make. So, anyways,
so the point of the story is to know how your insurance policies work, and you don't want to get blindsided.
Yeah, make sure when you're hiring guys 1099, make sure they got their own comp, or your comp is going to cover them. When that means you're going to have to pay for that. So if they get hurt, yeah, your comp will cover them, but they're also, when you get audited, when you get workman's comp, you get audited every single year. It's not if you get audited every single year you get audited.
It's not a bad thing. It's just part of how it works.
Right.
I mean,
And this
audit
is,
sounds bad, but
anyone that's watching this, been in business for a while, already knows these things. This is only for the absolute brand new installer.
Well, a lot of people that don't have employees, they're one man crew, they don't know, or they don't maybe they're not knowledgeable about how that works, which if you have somebody working on Christmas lights with you, like, you do not want anybody on a roof without having workman's comp. It is not worth it. It is not worth it.
Yeah, yeah. I know several guys that are out of business because, yeah, guys that work for them got hurt, and when you don't have comp, it really can be a bad thing.
All right, so do you want to talk about? Let's talk about jobs, things not to do.
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay. Do you want?
So, like, okay, Christmas light training.
So talk about employees. So I'll say our next segment is about employees.
Okay, so our next segment, yeah, is about employees. Okay.
Good job.
Okay, so you got to find someone that's teachable. So I used to hire experienced people all the time, and that was my favorite thing to do, hire experienced people because they already know what they're doing. Over the years, I like to find people that are teachable, people that are moldable. I have a whole bunch of college students that work for me. I find that it's easier to mold someone that doesn't have their own ideas than and try to teach them right than to bring someone that comes with all their own ideas and all their own experience, and they're just going to probably do things their own way. And then they don't get the job done right a lot of times. They think that they already know. Okay, don't start to pay too high. So for our Christmas lights, I think we pretty much standard pay everyone $15 an hour. Now, we used to pay people a lot right off the bat.
Jared's like, that's not what you pay me.
But you think that the more you pay, that the harder they're going to work. That's not how it works. So what we do is we start them at $15, $17 an hour, something very basic. But if they're good within the first week or two, we start giving them raises right away. So that way you can start to move them up, and they see that you're noticing they're trying hard. Versus if uh, that's just what we do. I used to pay people a lot right off the get go, and it does not equate to them working harder.
Well, and it doesn't give them incentive to um like impress you because they're not like striving for a raise really.
Right.
That's at least what we found.
Don't hire someone you're not. Yeah. Don't hire someone you're not willing to fire. So yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to let people go. So I used to hire a lot of friends, a lot of people in church, and don't so much anymore because you're going to have to fire some of these people. You're going to have to let them go. I mean, when I fire people, I just kind of don't. I mean, if the crews don't want them on the job, it's really hard to put them out with the crew. So if they're not a good worker, then I just have to say I'm sorry. The crew is busy and they're pretty set for the day, so no, we don't have much for you. And it's better if you realize they're not a candidate and you let them go pretty quickly, because the longer you let them work for you, the harder it gets to be to sever ties. Okay. Training. Don't assume people know the obvious. So even this year, I just made this mistake last year. When we were taking down lights, I was like, who in the world would do this kind of stuff? Like, we have training videos and all this stuff. So you can't just assume that your people that are out there installing, that they really know what they're doing. So you have to start at the very basics every year. So like this year, we're going to go to the light show because we start that. We actually do a little Christmas light village, and we do a bunch of lights on the rooftops. We're actually gonna have a training there. So if you guys want to get in-person training, we're going to have it there. There's like a lot of 6-foot roofs, 8-foot roofs. So you can do very easy pillar wraps, trees, all that stuff. But I'm going to have a big training day with my own installers for my, and this is going to be in, I think, September and October. And the reason I'm doing that then is because that's before I get really cranking into the install season. And I need to know, I'm going to micromanage my employees at that point and make sure that they all know what they're doing and they're installing it the Christmas Light Installers way. Like, my official company name is Christmas Light Installers for my install business. And I can't have guys working for me that are doing hack jobs, like that don't have top-notch work, like they're putting two males on a plug. Like, that's just not, it can't be tolerated. So I'm going to go through and show all the college students, all the new hires. We're going to go through for a day or two and install this Christmas light village. And I'm going to micromanage them and watch them, because trying to train them when you get really busy, you're like, to you, it's easy because you screw in a light bulb, put a clip. But a lot of times they'll put on the clip backwards, put in the light bulb crooked. And it's like
Oh,
very
yeah,
frustrating.
putting the clip on upside down is like, I don't know how you could get so
But
silly, but
it's something that's happened like many times, dozens of times. And then you're going on a job, it's like, who did this? So
um
so even our subcontractors, we hired them this year, and we found out the subcontractors, there's one or two skilled guys, but a lot of the other ones have no clue. And sometimes the subcontractors don't train them what they're doing. So I'm going to make my subcontractors come to the light show, and I'm going to make sure they're installing it my company's way. So that way, because that's early in the season before they go out and start installing all these jobs, that when I come back, it's like, what in the world are these guys? A bunch of like, this is not the way our company installs this.
yeah, like there's been a lot of times that I've been training people to do trees, and it's usually men that I'm training, and they kind of look at me like I'm stupid, like I can't believe that they're listening to me about how to put up mini lights, like it seems so obvious. I'll be like, make sure you don't put the male plug, start with the male plug at the top of the tree, like make sure you're not doing that. And they look at me like I'm an idiot, and then I kind of let them do a little bit on their own. I walk away, and then sure enough, they did that. They put the male plug at the top of the tree, and I'm like, do you literally remember me saying that? And it seems so obvious, but people, they just
So
don't use their brain all the time.
So, I mean, we run a pretty large Christmas light business. So we're breaking it down to the real, like real basics, like back when I was just starting out, because that's where I know most of you guys are at. So I know you guys want to hear someone doing 7 figures and how
Okay,
I'm just, no, I'm being serious because
Okay.
I know this is what you guys really need to hear to grow your business. Because to get to the 7 figure level, you first have to get to 6 figures. So getting all this stuff figured out will help it so you can start to scale. Because you're not going to jump to 7 figures if you can't even figure out how to get to 6 figures.
So things not to do is sending an inexperienced employee out on their own.
Yeah, so just because something seems so basic, that anyone knows. So you can have a new hire and they seem like they're a good candidate and they got a good head on their shoulders doing good, but you can't just send them with a pile of lights and be like, "Hey, here's a pole. Here, go do this tree." And then expect them, or here's a bunch of yardsticks. Here, go put it on this house. Like, go put it along the pathway. Even though it's very simple, like someone that's only been there for a week is not, they just don't understand really. They don't understand the terminology. They don't understand what a customer's expectations are in a week. Even though they're really smart, you see they got a lot of potential. You can't just go let them run with it.
Like we gave somebody yard stakes to do, and at this time we had used the halo stakes, and like I said, people don't assume people know the obvious. Like a halo clips, they kind of like ratchet together, and this person didn't close any of the stakes, and they did this on the roof too. And so anytime you pulled the lights, it just came right off.
I mean, and
On the clips.
they did so many installs, and we didn't know until we're doing takedowns. And when we're pulling them off the roof, all the lights are coming down, but all the clips are there because they never snapped the halo. And they were talking about how they hate the halo and that the lights always fall off. Well, I never thought, and this is a season, he's way better installer than me, actually. He's one of my subs. He's one of the best installers I've ever seen. But he didn't understand with the halo clip, you got to snap it like, and it clicks. He's like, "Oh wow, that's awesome," but he didn't know that till I was taken down. I called him and I sent him a video or something. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." But he did all these houses with halo clips and didn't click any of them, so it was a nightmare doing all the takedowns.
Again, it seems super obvious, but sometimes people just don't get it.
Yeah, yeah, and like the putting the mail at the top, the mail plug at the top of a tree, it happens pretty much every year. We always go to a job, probably multiple times a year, and there it is. The mail's at the top of the tree, and they'll run an extension cord down inside the tree and try to. Some of them do that. It's like it makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, so we say, yeah, don't.
Okay, so what you really want to do is have your new guys work with experienced guys. Your experienced guys are going to want to gravitate and work together. You got to stop that right away. You're like, okay, I know that you guys are your own little clique and you guys get in your own groove, but we got to worry about the future. And so you want to break up your experienced installers and have them in different, if you have 2 jobs going on at once, you want to have them on 2 separate jobs. So that way you always have a new guy that's having to work with the experienced guy. So that way the knowledge is being transmitted to the next person, because you have to plan on the next year. Not everyone's coming back. So you have to plan for the future that you need to always have fresh talent that's always being trained.
Let's see, we got a question. Do you not allow installers to collect checks if you are on another job?
Yes, we encourage them to collect as much money as they can. Now, even if they get cash, we definitely tell them to call us whenever they're getting cash. Most homeowners will actually call the office to make sure it's all right to give them cash, because they know that installer would take. But if you got installers working for you, you're worried about like taking cash from the homeowner. I mean, you got bigger problems from your. I mean, if you really are hiring people that are stealing money from the homeowner and not giving it to you, like, you got other business issues.
I think that there's been times where we didn't want the customers to know how much the job was, or we didn't want the employees to know how much the job was, because it creates sometimes it can create some.
So that was for a while.
Unwanted
I've kind of
feelings.
changed my mind. So it is awkward. Your installers see how much you're charging on the job, but if you pay your installers well, they don't really care, because they're like, well, in order for me to get paid what I'm paid, they got to charge enough. So how can I give my guys raises if I'm charging next to nothing on the job, where I'm better able to stay in business? How can I give my guys raises? I mean, every year my guys come back, they want more money than the year before. So what am I going to charge the customer less? So I mean, but also we tell our customers like, look, we're not the cheapest installers in the city. We have top-notch employees. We have some of the best employees in the country. So our installs are some of the best. Like we just, if we do a job and we underbid it, like it's our fault. I tell my guys that work for me, that look, if the job is underbid, I don't care. It's our fault. Put a note in the file, but make the tree look good, make the pillars look good, make the house look good, because we're not going to do a job that looks bad. That's just so sometimes we will underbid a job and we're going to make it look good. But that's, I want to just make sure that we're providing a premium service to any of our customers. But because of that, I even just told my installers this year, I was like, look, you have to understand, we are one of the most expensive installers in the city, but that's because we don't want to compete with all the guys that are just learning how to install and their jobs don't look like mine. We have the best installs in the city. So we charge accordingly. But I pay my guys because they are worth it.
Yeah, so I think that's the big thing, that yes, they collect checks for us, but it is because we also really try to take care of our guys, that there's not any hard feelings about what we charge.
Yeah, and anytime I can get one of my installers to go collect the check, that's so much better than me having to
Stress
follow
off
up.
of your shoulders.
Because I know Jobber, I have Jobber, and I can bill them even if they don't pay. But I'd say probably if you look at a lot of these big installers that talk about they don't have a high of return customer retention rate like as some other installers. I would question some of them because they habitually just zap their cards after a couple days. Because I know Jobber, I like it that we keep their cards in file, and we can charge them. But I think that should be a very last resort, because I think that's a big reason why a lot of these bigger installers are not having the customer retention, because customers go ballistic when you zap their card. It sometimes they call and curse you out, but for everyone that's calling you and cursing you out about it, how many are just so upset they're never going to use you again when they see that you just took money in their account for installing their lights? Because maybe they couldn't quite pay it that week, so they're going to pay it the next week. So
So we got another question is, for your part-time seasonal help, where do they usually work during the year?
So we have we had for a lot of years a guy that drives ice cream truck in the summer. So in the winter, I mean, you don't sell ice cream. So for him, it was a good fit. And he was a crew chief for us. He's kind of moved on to other stuff now. He does like welding stuff, and he actually welds some of the stuff for light shows. But he that worked really good. If you can find someone that they have a service where, like, okay, like Patrick Walker, he hires fishermen, because fishermen, they are extremely busy during the summer, but then they have absolutely no work in the winter. So he hires a whole bunch of fishermen to I think originally, now he hires more Spanish crews. But where where do you get our seasonal help? Now, I am really affiliated with the Bible College, and so what we try to do is encourage, see, people that are like-minded tend to hang around with people that are like them. So if we have a really good rock star college student, we're like, hey man, if you got any of your buddies that want to bring to work, just go ahead and bring them. And so they'll start being recruiters into the school for us. So that really helps us. That's for the years, through the years.
We try to give them work basically in September when school starts, and then that goes all the way till usually end of January, and then they only have a couple of months left that they need to find work for before the school's out, and we pay them well enough that, and we're very flexible with their schedule, that they are very happy to work for us. So that's, and then our main installer, he is like a roofer during the summer.
Yeah, a lot of roofers do slow down around Thanksgiving time, but what you're finding with roofers is that they're used to making a couple $1,000. I mean, if they're not, their paychecks are like in the $5,000 or $10,000 when they're like putting on their own roofs. So they're not interested in making $1,000 a day. And for some reason, roofers, they don't like to work in pairs of two. They always want to have 3 or 4, maybe 5, and it's not profitable for them to do like 5 or 6 roofs in a day with a crew of 5 or 6. If they would just break down to 2 people, they do fine. But it's very tough to get roofers to disband. I don't know what it is about them.
So are they collecting unemployment after January?
No, this is seasonal work. So
I mean, that we've had people that have filed for unemployment, and we never deny it, or like we never fight it.
Okay, because we don't really classify ourselves seasonal. We could fight it probably, and they would not, but we just pay it. We don't care. It is an expense that we probably don't. I know Somerset's really adamant that he won't let his guys work more than 120 days out of the year because he'll actually be out there working by himself because he has to make sure on the calendar year it's not more than 120 days because he doesn't want to pay unemployment on it. So if anyone gets caught working more, it might be 90 days or 120. Then the state deems you as in full time, and now you have to pay unemployment. But if it's seasonal, then you don't have to pay unemployment. So most of you Christmas light guys should be seasonal, so you shouldn't have to pay unemployment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they definitely could, but they don't seem to ever do it. So
Yeah,
I think we've only had 2 people ever try to file for unemployment, but that's just unique to us. So I can't.
yeah,
say what.
we've had literally hundreds of employees now over the years for Christmas lights.
I think a lot of the younger kids.
Okay, so now for us, college, like in Indianapolis, there's probably 4 or 5 of my competitors that all hire college students. So it definitely works. So if you guys think I'm like out to lunch and that this isn't for you, I say some of the biggest companies in Indianapolis, this is where they get their labor from college students. So, I mean, one of the fastest growing guys in Indiana uses a ton of college labor. He finds rock stars there. And I actually have coached him and helped him. It's like, look, your first year, you're going to get some students and just hire a bunch of them. You always got to keep some in the hopper, someone that you're always trying to train, but have like a year 2 college student work with the year 1s and show them the ropes, show them what they're doing. And then by the end of, especially during takedowns, you really start to see what the next year's talent is. And I start already telling them, like, hey, make sure you do not get a job in September. There's a job here for you. I'll find busy work for them to do in September because I want to make sure they don't go work flipping burgers or go be some a chauffeur or what do you call it for the cars, the guys that go get cars.
Somebody said, you want to read it?
Okay.
I feel like this might be Donovan.
So the reason customer retention goes down, the customer does not see service value. Also, side note, you need to touch your client via email, mail or email. We charge as soon as the job is complete via Jobber. Yeah, I don't know who the user is, but
if you're in the Facebook group, the private group, when the chat comes through, it just shows Facebook user. But I mean, I think there's probably, different reasons. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely customers that just don't come back. So when I was cheap, when I was $3 a foot, like we rarely lost customers. We would take over whole neighborhoods. It's just our signs would be everywhere. But then at $3 a foot, you really like it's me installing with another installer, and I can do that with 2 guys, 3 guys. You can take over a whole neighborhood. You can go knock out 10, 15 jobs in a day. But when you can't be on the job anymore, and even if you're there and you're just go time, you're just hanging lights in this one neighborhood, and you're getting 10 houses done in a day or 15. I mean, 10's pretty good. You can literally do 10 in a day if you're just sticking in a little neighborhood, and you can charge $500 a house and just jump from house to house to house. But that means you have to be on the job. And as soon as you have to start answering phone calls, putting out more estimates. So I was getting so many calls, getting bombarded with all these referrals because I was the cheapest guy. And so I'm getting bombarded with all these referrals. Then I got to go drive. Some people, they don't want to go over the phone. So you go meet them. Then my guys are starting to complain that my crews, because they're used to working side by side with me. And I am not helping them anymore. And I'm sitting there driving around, or I'm talking on the phone to all these people. So now I'm having to replace me with another person. It can't just be a basic person that just is learning how to what a light bulb is. Like it's got to be kind of someone that with enough experience that can pull their weight. And so you're not going to be able to pay them $15 an hour. So then you're paying $3 a foot. You're all of a sudden not profitable.
Okay, let's get off the $3 a foot. Let's start talking about things not to do with your jobs and bidding your jobs.
Okay.
So I have to like reword how these are because the title is what not to do. So don't have poor communication with your customers.
So yeah,
Right.
okay. So I used to stress, and I still do. It's extremely important that anyone that's working for me, that's in the office, that they have to clearly communicate with the homeowner what we're what the expectations are. There has to be clear communication. And so we have and if it's a referral from a neighbor that comes over, and so my installer goes over there, sometimes I do let them give a quote. Some of my seasoned installers, I will let them give a quote. They'll call me on the phone, send me a picture, and be like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And then they'll go and do it. But it's got to be clearly communicated that the customer is getting exactly what they expected. So at the end, it's easy payment. Well, that's great, the communication your first year. But now that my company has grown beyond that, well, there's jobs, a number of jobs this year where either I had done it or another guy that used to be my crew leader, me or him were always on the job. Well, now I'm not. This year I was barely on any installs, like maybe I don't know if I would even, I did barely one a week. And so, but I continually kept getting calls. The installers were out. I was like, what do we do here? What do we do? And it was a job that we had for 8 years. Well, either I was always on the job or my other crew chief was. Well, since both me or him weren't there, no one knew how the job went. I had never been there. My crew chief was not
Like what
working
trees
for us.
what trees you were supposed to do, what bushes you're supposed to
So
do,
in the
things like
notes, it was
that.
written down pretty detailed in the notes, but there wasn't a picture. So, and especially the absolute, this year, every one of my jobs, when estimate goes out, we have to have a picture, line on a picture. But at the end of the job, we are trying, if there's repairs, whatever, we need a photo of the house lit up, because I do have some Spanish guys and they don't read the line items very well, but they see the picture, and that picture, they will do it 100% of the time. They'll do it right. Well, I can't say 90, the high percentage of the time, they will install it by the picture that one is lit up from the year before. So I'm trying to get a picture of every single job. So it's communicated to the customer what's expected, but also more importantly, it's communicated to my installers, not only this year, but years down the road, where the person involved in selling the job, you may have a different office staff, a different salesman, you may have a different lead installer. And so they may be totally different people on the job that have ever been there before. And so that job has to be able to be installed without you, the owner, or anyone that's ever been there before. They can just look at the file, load up the truck, know exactly what needs done on that job. And that, even for this year, I realized like my company cannot grow to the next level till I have a file for every single job that is intelligible, makes sense. And actually, that should be enough. Like the day before, you need to go through your jobs for the next day and make sure there's a file on every single job that's there. So that way your installers aren't calling you the next day, interrupting your day, trying to figure out why they're there and have to reschedule their job for another day because you can't get a hold of the homeowner.
Or they didn't pack the right thing.
Or yeah, they didn't pack because they didn't understand that this was in the notes, because it wasn't in the notes sometimes.
How about when was it there was a customer and you he asked you for a quote, and then like 2 weeks later he wanted it done and you said the price went up, and then because
Oh,
your invoice, are you gonna tell a story?
yeah. So okay, we had this. This is kind of stupid. I lost a lot of money in this job, but so I had a customer that he was across the street from another job, so he came over. I was like, okay, go ahead. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it for this price. And he was chopped me down a price already. So I was like, okay, we're already here. If you can do it now, we will do it for this price, but absolutely not later. So then like 2 weeks later, he called. He's like, okay, fine. I'm going to pull the trigger. I was like, and so I sent him the estimate, and it was $200 higher than last time. He's like, this is not what we agreed upon. I was like, dude, I said that was only good for while we were there, because to send my crew back out there, like it just messes up the whole day. For it's not part of our schedule. So I actually sent that video that was going viral. It's like the price, yesterday's price is not today's price. The price went up.
Don't send that
I
to your
actually sent it to the
customers.
customer, and my wife was mortified. She could not believe that I would do that, because this neighborhood, we did tons of, there's pro NBA players in there. This one guy I think gave a $700 tip this year. And she's like, I cannot believe you sent that to that homeowner. So I felt bad, and I was like, okay. So I told the guy, I texted him, because my wife,
Fred thought he was being
I was like,
funny.
okay, fine, we'll go ahead and do it for what I said. And so I sent my installer there to go install it for the $200 less what I agreed upon like 2 weeks earlier. So I was just kind of mad about things like, this is so stupid. Like I can't. But when I actually went, because there's a repair, the installer had done like 3 times the work that was on the what he was agreed to. Well, the picture the customer had the picture of my installer had the picture of what I wanted done. But I had sent the customer like 3 different options, good, better, best. And the customer showed the installers like, no, no, this is the picture. And he showed him the picture that he did not select, but it had all the options on it. So my installer did the works, did it all.
Yeah,
And so
and
this
he was paid
customer,
by the foot, so he
yeah,
got
and
paid a lot.
we paid our customer by or our
Or
installer by the foot. So we definitely lost money. The customer paid us less probably than we paid our installer on that. Plus, yeah, it was um, but there wasn't clear notes. The installer didn't have clear notes. The customer,
so Fred thought he was funny when he sent that little funny video, but really the customer got the last laugh, huh?
yeah. Um, okay. What time is
We got 10 minutes still.
it? Okay. So do you guys have any more questions? Uh, so like don't okay. Okay. Also, here's a big one. For Christmas lights, for your Christmas light business to really take off, you really almost have to put it first. Um, like I can tell you, I didn't take Christmas lights that serious till probably 5, 6 years ago, and that's when our business really started to take off. But my install business, I mean, I started my Facebook group before my install business really started to take off. I mean, we were one of the largest people in Indianapolis, but I started to see some of these other people just like leapfrog past me. Even some of the people that we've trained, like their businesses now are bigger than mine. I started to realize, wow, and they're charging way more than me. I drive by their jobs and their jobs, I mean, just didn't, it's like, and they charge those prices and they charge like that. Like, I know that our work is better than that. You know, it's like, I can't believe like they're outselling me. They're charging way more. Their jobs don't even look the same, not even close. And like, I was just, anyways, I didn't know how to run a business. So I started retooling and get my business better. But part of the thing was I was okay, like 1 year, I was still doing construction. So I was doing a siding job and the material came in late. So we started it and I needed the money. So it's like, I don't know, almost a $20,000 job. So I'm doing it, but it ends up taking like a week longer almost. We ended up not installing Christmas lights. We had planned on starting like the middle of October, but I didn't get out there, I think, till like a few days before Halloween. And that's when we ended up starting to install Christmas lights. So I ended up pushing my whole Christmas light season back almost 2 weeks. Well, 10 days. I don't know what it was, but I make way more money installing Christmas lights than hanging siding. But and this happened multiple years where my other business, whether it was power washing, because there's a big wave of power washing that comes in right around October-ish. Like everyone knows it's the end of the year. They want a quick, I saw the mildew all year and they know it's getting cold. So let's quick wash. Well, 1 year I did a Groupon and for gutter cleaning. And that's right in the middle of Christmas lights. And so I was running around trying to clean gutters for what they like $99, which Groupon only gives you $49 of it. And like, it was absolutely
Again,
nuts.
this was also like 12 years ago. So this was like the very first year.
Right. But I didn't differentiate my businesses. And so I didn't understand. It's like when Christmas light season, even Donovan will tell you when Christmas light season starts, like he shuts down his gutter cleaning because if you try to let them overlap, you're not going to do a good job at Christmas. You do not want to lose your Christmas light customers. They are a different type of customer. They need to have the red carpet service. You need to do your jobs well and treat the customer like just go over the top for them. Do whatever it takes to retain their business.
Okay. What's the saying? You're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies?
Yeah, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, stepping up. Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah. But you're trying to make a little extra money because you got gutter cleaning. I know one of my biggest competitors. I think his install business has outgrown me at this point. He does window washing, and I think he used to. And I used to coach him a little bit for Christmas lights. He'd call me every once in a while. But he had been doing window washing for like 10 or 15 years, and he was saying if he's really pushing it, he himself can make about $75 a man hour. So then he did gutter cleaning and stuff, but now he shuts everything down and just does Christmas lights.
All right, so let's get these last 2 questions before we have to sign off. For running multiple trucks, are vans or trailers better?
There's different opinions. I since I'm starting to get dents in my trucks, I am starting to believe that I would rather have like this year, Lord willing, I would like to get. Kaitlin will probably not be happy, but I want to get one of those like a cargo van, something that a transit something that they can work out. It's pretty much like a trailer on wheels, because I'm starting to see dents in my vehicles, and my employees, I'm really nervous about them driving around with trailers.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like driving around in trailers is a little scary. And then also, but you also have to get a nice van because we have had multiple vans and people always make fun of them like they're like kidnapper vans that were with free candy written on the side. They look a little
Yeah,
rough.
look
So
creeper. So I mean, it was good because I like vans because then the lights don't get wet when it rains. Trucks you're always dealing with, and that's why I love trailers. So my old crew chief, he really he had trailers, and I had no problems with him driving around with trailers. And I even my new main guy, I like him driving around with trailers. But when I need something moved and everything's in the trailer, I'm really leery to have my employees driving around with trailers. So
but the trailers do look really nice.
but yeah, we get tons of calls from our trailers going around town. They look really snazzy. It gets us tons of leads, but it's you almost have to be the owner or have a very good tech that's driving it.
All right, so next question. When do you all start running ads? What kind of marketing budget do you all have to be one of the largest in your area?
So I mean, yard signs like in my area, Sam like just like obliterates everyone, but he puts I think 500 yard signs up a week. He pays someone to go around putting them
I
up.
mean, I feel like when we drove around Indianapolis, there were so many Christmas light yard signs. It was almost obnoxious.
But they work.
But it wasn't, I'm not singling out any like company because there's like 6 or 7 Christmas light yard signs on one corner. So we don't do yard signs only in the
Yeah,
the lawns of the homes that we
put
actually
yard
do.
signs in our jobs because our jobs pop. Our jobs look a lot better than the majority of our competitors. So
Yeah,
we
one
like to
time we
brag,
had-
put a sign
We
out
had
front.
like a really nice job. It was like a couple $1,000 job, really good looking. And then we had a friend that did the house next door, and
He did both houses next door.
and so ours was like the one that stood out. But he like positioned his sign in a way that made it look like his sign was in front of the house that we did.
Yeah, it's
That
one of
was
our one of
really
our best
obnoxious.
installs, one of our biggest clients in
I
Indianapolis.
mean, it's like really rude. But what about your Facebook ads?
So yeah,
and
so Facebook ad stuff, so all that stuff, you're really throwing your money away if you're starting to run ads before September. I mean, we have data kind of to show it. We try to do it ourselves, and because we're trying to develop systems for you guys to advertise better. Because if we can help you guys get more profitable, then it helps our business. So we try to see our installers succeed. But we threw away a lot of money last year advertising. And then later in the year, the exact same ads were working very well when it got into September, October. So, and
then how much do you budget?
I mean so you have ROI. So if you're budgeting like $100 a day and you're getting on Facebook ads and you're getting like 5 or 10 leads, well, maybe you're getting 5 leads a day on Facebook ads, or maybe 10, and you're spending $100. If you bump that up to $500 a day, that does not mean all of a sudden you may only get twice as many leads, even though you're spending 5 times the money. So they're like the law of diminishing returns. The more money you spend on the same platform, just there's only so many people that are going to click when they see your ad. So by making them see your ad a whole bunch of times doesn't mean they're that much more likely to click it. So you have to have multiple ways to advertise. Google, so just I would find multiple ways that you can advertise. Do not just find one way that works for you. Because like if let's say yard signs work for you one year and the next year you got 5 competitors doing the same thing with yard signs, it may not work so well.
So what would you say, just to finish his question, what would you say that you spend on advertising?
So I mean, okay.
I don't.
Now we're watching some of the best installers in the country, and I'm seeing data from some of them, and they're not planning on being profitable their first year, so they'll dump $50,000 in ads, even though I don't think it's the best ad spend. But they don't care. They're just trying to get more customers because they know the life of that customer. They'll easily make it back.
I feel like we're not very good at measuring,
because we're not really trying to grow our install business. Like, I mean, we grow because we have such a reputation. But when I first started, I was spending about $5,000 to $10,000 a year on ads between Facebook and Google. I'd say to do what I did back then, you'd probably have to spend probably 20, 30,
But
$40,000
what
a year.
about, what do you do for SEO? How much do you think you spend on SEO a
Now,
year?
the only thing I spend for advertising, I spend about 15,000 a year on SEO, and it works because we have a lot of good reviews, and it keeps us one of the top sites in the city. And if you're not paying, if you're in a competitive city, you're not going to rank if you're not probably paying for SEO.
Okay, so last question.
And that SEO, you have to start at least 6 months in advance, at least even a year, really. Right now, you need to be starting now if you plan on ranking for SEO by Halloween. This is our last question. Okay, so do you try to separate your permanent light season from Christmas lights? So if you look at data from all the permanent light installers across the country, I think I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I would guess somewhere in the neighborhood 80% of all permanent lights that are sold in the U.S. are sold between September through November. So you can try to separate them, but you're saying that's the same thing. We were trying to run permanent light ads all year last year. And
And to clarify that this is kind of a new venture for us. Like, it's not like we have years of experience with permanent lighting.
But we have a lot of data from experienced installers that they were telling us this last year. And now we have data that kind of shows exactly what they were saying. But if you see people hanging permanent light jobs right now, most of those are people that were sold back in November. You are going to get some jobs now. There are some fresh new leads. So like that's what Tyler's working on. There's going to be people that want permanent lights. But even right now, whatever you do in permanent lighting, if you do it in September, the exact same thing you're doing now, you're going to get many times the return on the investment that you would now. Because it's like September, everyone starts thinking about Christmas lights. I don't know why, but they can't separate. Your number one customer that wants permanent lights is someone that's already putting temporary lights on their house or business. So that's why if you do permanent lights, they train you to drive around all the businesses, anyone with Christmas lights on, write them down because you're going to target them all next year because they are the most likely to buy permanent lights the next year. So,
all right, awesome. Well, it's been fun. 7 o'clock.
yeah,
Thank you, everyone that's joined us. Let's see, and don't forget, final piece of advice is don't think you know everything, right?
yeah. So part of the reason what held my business back for a lot of years, I thought I was like one of the biggest installers in my city. So I thought I'd all figured out. Well, I just started way before people. That's the only reason why I'd grown so much. And I had bad systems in place. So watching people pass me by like pretty quickly, then I started to realize, wow, I guess I didn't. So if I would have just been willing to listen to other people and fine tune my business, I was sitting on a gold mine. I just didn't actually know it. So don't think you know everything. But yeah, we have training. Donovan's got training. I think it's a power wash training. And he's going to be doing it in Kentucky.
Let me get the date.
With Precision Pro Wash.
Which, I mean, I think one thing
And then they're doing Christmas lights. They might talk about permanent lights a little bit. They just installed permanent lights down there this week.
I mean, I think one thing is different about our training is not only like the camaraderie, but I feel like it's kind of a wholesome training. I don't know. I feel like it's a good time. It's like you get to talk and connect with people. It's like wholesome maybe is not the best word.
So we got our
but
Kentucky power wash training Christmas lights. That's in May. So did they put TBD?
Oh, it's 9th and 10th, which is going to be with Brian Richardson. And I met Brian Richardson at the Gatlinburg training, and I really like him. I think he is a good guy. He's also in youth ministry, which I really feel like that's why I really liked him. So it's going to be a good time. They're like going to have like this event center on the lake, go out on the boat. It's just going to be an awesome time. Obviously with training too, with power washing and Christmas lights. So, and then we've got there's going to be some upcoming trainings in Raleigh, which is going to be pretty cool because they're going to be at Donovan's home installing permanent lighting and Christmas lighting, and it's really going to be a small group, so it's going to be a lot more intimate. So it's not like you're going to be competing with 20 other guys to try and ask a question, but you're going to really have like some cool time with that. And then if you'd like to meet us, we're having a training in July 11th and 12th. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a Twinkly Pro rep is gonna be up here also. Um, so he's gonna be actually training us how to install some of the Twinkly Pro, which is different from Twinkly Plus. It's actually a lot more robust, a lot easier to use. And we're gonna do some Christmas lights training. It is the same weekend as the one that's at Donovan's warehouse, but or not his warehouse, but it's gonna be at his house. But you're gonna get hands on. You're gonna actually practice with the Twinkly Pro. Uh, we're going to have, I'm sure it'll be a great training. I'm really excited about Twinkly Pro this year. We got some news that we're not really ready to announce yet, but Twinkly's going to be big with permanent lights, we think. And it's got a lot of add-ons, a lot of add-on features that I don't think any people are talking about yet, but I think your customers are going to love. But you can get actual experience, hands-on training with that. We're going to actually deck out my house in Twinkly Pro. And so it's going to be pretty awesome.
And then Spencer Clay's coming
And
out for that.
Spencer Clay's coming out for that.
If you don't know who he is, you need to go check out his TikTok. He's a big power washing, roof cleaning guy.
Yeah, and then we've got some more permanent light training in Raleigh. We got Christmas lights training. And then September, we got our Christmas tree. We're going to get some lift work out on some trees at the light show there. And then we got some 3D commercial displays and RGB training, Christmas light basics in October. That's going to be again at the light show. And that's in Indiana.
And the very last thing is that Ryan Culp is having some aerial training for the lifts next month, I believe. So that's in North Carolina. So definitely a lot to go to, a lot of opportunities. It's going to be awesome. And we hope to see you there. So thank you guys for joining us. See you later.
Right. Signing out.